A quiet road can sometimes hide something more complicated beneath its surface. What looks like a simple dip or hole in the pavement might actually be the result of long-term wear, weather, or even something happening deep underground that has been building for years. At first glance, these changes can seem similar, especially when all you see is a sudden opening in the ground. But the truth is that not every hole is the same, and the cause behind it can tell a very different story about what is happening below your feet. So what exactly separates a pothole from a sinkhole? And why does one usually stay on roads while the other can reshape entire pieces of land? Let's break down the difference between potholes and sinkholes, right here, on History of Simple Things. A pothole is a type of damage that forms on paved surfaces like roads, usually when the layers underneath the asphalt begin to weaken. It often starts with small cracks in the surface, which allow water to seep in over time. When temperatures drop, that trapped water can freeze and expand, pushing the pavement apart. As it melts again, gaps are left behind beneath the surface. With constant pressure from passing vehicles, especially heavy ones, the weakened area eventually collapses and creates a visible hole. Potholes are closely tied to weather conditions, road quality, and traffic load, which is why they are most common in areas with frequent rainfall, freezing temperatures, or heavy use. They are essentially surface-level failures that grow worse over time if they are not repaired. Sinkholes form through natural processes that happen underground rather than on the surface. They usually occur in areas where the ground contains rocks like limestone, gypsum, or salt beds that can slowly dissolve when exposed to groundwater. Over long periods, water moves through cracks in these rocks and gradually creates empty spaces or cavities below the surface. As these underground voids grow larger, the ground above them becomes less stable. Eventually, if the support is no longer strong enough, the surface collapses into the empty space below. Some sinkholes form slowly, with the ground sinking over time, while others appear suddenly and dramatically without much warning. Unlike potholes, sinkholes are not limited to roads and can happen in natural land, fields, or even urban areas. The most important difference between potholes and sinkholes is where the problem begins. Potholes start at the surface, usually in the road itself, and develop downward as the pavement weakens. Sinkholes start underground, where rock or soil is gradually removed or weakened before the surface collapses. A pothole is typically shallow and localized, affecting only the top layer of a road. A sinkhole can be much deeper and wider, sometimes extending far below the ground and affecting large areas. Potholes are caused mainly by traffic stress, water infiltration, and temperature changes, while sinkholes are driven by geological processes such as erosion, groundwater flow, or the natural dissolving of rock over time. Even though potholes and sinkholes form differently, they can look surprisingly similar at first glance, which is why people often confuse them. Both involve sudden openings or depressions in the ground, and both can appear without much warning. However, their surroundings often provide clues. Potholes are almost always found in paved areas and are surrounded by broken asphalt or concrete. Sinkholes may appear in soil, grass, or mixed terrain, and the surrounding land often shows signs of sinking or cracking. In some cases, a sinkhole can form under a road, which makes it look like a very large pothole. The difference lies in whether the damage is only in the surface layer or if the ground beneath has actually collapsed. Both potholes and sinkholes can be dangerous, but they carry different levels of risk. Potholes are more common and usually cause damage to vehicles, such as flat tires, bent rims, or suspension problems. They can also lead to accidents if drivers try to avoid them suddenly. Sinkholes, however, are often far more serious because they involve structural failure underground. A large sinkhole can damage buildings, roads, pipelines, and other infrastructure if the ground beneath them is no longer stable. Some sinkholes form gradually and give warning signs like cracks in walls or uneven ground, while others can collapse suddenly with little to no warning. Because of their scale and unpredictability, sinkholes generally pose a higher overall risk. Repairing potholes usually involves filling the damaged area with new asphalt and sealing surrounding cracks to prevent water from entering again. Proper road maintenance and drainage systems are key to reducing how often they form. Sinkholes require a more complex approach because the problem lies beneath the surface. Engineers often need to investigate what caused the underground collapse before repairing it. In some cases, they fill the cavity with materials like concrete or grout to stabilize the ground. In more severe cases, areas may need to be reinforced or restricted if the ground remains unstable. Prevention is more difficult with sinkholes because they depend on natural underground conditions, but careful land use and groundwater management can reduce the risk. Potholes and sinkholes may look similar at first glance, especially since both can appear as sudden holes or depressions in the ground, but they actually come from very different processes that happen at completely different depths. Understanding the difference helps explain why some ground failures are relatively minor road problems that can be quickly repaired, while others signal more serious instability beneath the earth that may affect larger areas and require more complex solutions. The next time you see a sudden hole in the ground, what you're really looking at depends on whether the problem started at the surface through everyday wear or deep below the ground where hidden geological processes have been shaping the land long before the surface finally gave way. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.